I am trying to get this together. Hello, everyone. Yeah, quite a lot of people waiting. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on Solomon's Temple. Tonight is going to be a great night. We are looking at something that has been with us for quite a long time. And that is, if you look around our communities where we grew up, a lot of us go to church. But then the big question is, we know the pastors. How about his kids? We know his families. But do we know how they are raised and how they grow up? And that's really the big talk that we're going to be having tonight on Solomon's Temple. If today is your first day, thank you so much for coming here. And if you are a PK, as they call themselves, you know, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I really appreciate it. You have your different experiences. Some of the PKs that have joined us, I read quite a lot of comment earlier on where you're saying you're going to join us, but you know, in just the conversation. So please share your view, share your perspective on Facebook, all your comments on, if you're watching on YouTube, all your comments so we can put it out there because that is important for us to hear about your experiences. Most times we celebrate the pastor. Sometimes we celebrate his wife or not. How about his kids? Do we over expect PKs, as they call themselves, pastors' kids? Do we over expect them to perform? Do we expect them to be like their parents? Do we even know what they go through? When they make mistakes, how do we treat them? Do we create a standard and put all over them? And that's something that I've watched happening growing up around church, in church. I've seen that over and over again. I've met different pastors' kids. Some of them made mistakes, obviously, growing up, just like any other kid. But sometimes we expect them to be different. Of course, we want them to be different, and we want them to be godly, just like us. So it's not just them. So again, thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time, if you're on YouTube or if you're not on YouTube, please go and subscribe to this YouTube channel. There's quite a lot of other video resources that you can check out that would really be great for you. Well, just to introduce my guests tonight, I have three of them. The one has been trying to join us, coming in and out. I have Nakawe Katide. He is all the way from the East Rand, Johannesburg, born and bred, right?
No, I was actually born in the Free State.
Wow.
And then my parents moved to Tembisa for ministry, and yeah, I've been there ever since.
All right, all the way. Thanks so much for joining us. And we're going to introduce your dad later on. You would introduce your dad later on. That's not my responsibility. I know quite a lot of people know him, especially people that loves sex. If you're a couple, you know, if you're a couple. And then obviously all the way from Soweto. We know her as a gospel singer, and we also know her as someone who is a preacher, and she's a pastor's kid herself, you know, Vicky Vilakazi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Izang. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everybody.
Yes, so let's start with you, Vicky. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, actually, basically, before we break down, you know, the different phases in your life. Just a little bit about yourself and where you are now, what you do now currently.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. I am Vicky. Vicky became my name because it was used on stage, but I am Victories. My name given by parents is Victories Vilakazi. A gospel singer, a preacher, as he said. What have I been doing? Izang, how can you ask me that when COVID had locked all of us in the houses? I've been locked down. I've been doing nothing. I've been just eating and gaining weight, but at least it was a chance for me to have a meeting with myself. You know, you work with people and you are always on stage, you are always on public stage, you forget about yourself. So you get a chance to do introspection and revisit yourself and your life. And of course, you have many ideas coming. I've been writing songs. I've been coming up with concepts. I can't wait to get to level 0 so that I can explode.
Oh wow, yeah. So as a creative, especially being a songwriter and an artist,
Yeah, you
I'm
see,
sure.
you see a fly, you write. You see a cockroach in the house, you write a song. You know, you see different types of masks, you write a song.
So have you written a song about social distancing and mask already?
Yes, yes. I saw I saw some lady even from Nigeria playing some piece of song, and then I made a collaboration with her. She didn't even know. I took her video and I sang my lyrics about staying home and use sanitizing and using your mask and everything. So I've been just having fun over this COVID thing.
Oh wow, that's amazing. At least you got it going on. My brother, what have you been up to? For you, just what have you been up to lately? The pandemic. You are also a creative yourself.
Yeah. I'm a creative, but I mean, I've been focusing on the corporate space for a long time now. Now, one of the things that I did through the pandemic was, go back to basics.
Right.
Go back to being a husband to my wife, and go back to being a father to my kids. In life, in our endeavor to be socially relevant and whatnot, we forget our roles, especially the simple thing, like being somebody's husband, uh, you know cooking for them almost on a daily basis, bathing their kids, watching movies with kids. I think that's one of the blessings that the pandemic has given us, that we are able to thank God for those small miracles. Even forget that there's a pandemic out there. You sit at home with your son, and they look you straight in the eye, and you realize that it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and we take for granted because, especially as Christians, these things are expected. But we forget that there's actually a duty being a husband, and there's a duty being a father. Sis Vicky, last time you saw me and my wife, right, which was 3 years ago, she was pregnant with our first child, I think.
And how many do you have now?
I've got 3 now.
Wow.
Okay, I've got 3 now. Yeah. So yeah,
you are the son of your father. You're the son of your father.
Yes.
I'm the evidence.
His teachings are really working.
Yeah, basically that's the gist of what I've been up to. But I've just been appointed head of marketing for a security company. So yeah, once level 1 hits, no, not level 1, level 0, or the lockdown ends, I'll be back into corporate. But it's gonna be tricky because I'm one of those people. I refuse to cut my hair. I refuse to shave. Listen, I'm African, brother. Whoever does not like me, should not employ me in Jesus' name.
Yeah. Amen. And then you are creative. Anyway, but Bongi Way is here. Bongi, can you hear me? She's been having a bit of problem with her network. Bongi, can you hear me? No, she cannot hear me. Bongi, can you hear me? No? All right, we'll come back to her later. But just back to you, her network is definitely problematic.
Yeah.
Back to you again, Vicky. How was it like for you growing up? Tell us about growing up, your first experiences of church, and also your first experiences of understanding the fact that you are pastor's kids. And tell us about, I know you have siblings also. Tell us a little bit about family life.
Yeah, Number one, I realized that I'm a pastor's kid the first day I came on earth. Even 9 months before my birth, because when my mom was like 6, I thought it was 8 months. She was 8 months pregnant, but I just learned that she was 5 months pregnant. When my father went for a mission, they went to preach in Swaziland. They went by foot because they had a problem with their car. So they decided to walk to Swaziland, which took them 9 days. So my father goes to preach in Swaziland. He leaves my mom heavily pregnant until mama gives birth to me. And then daddy comes back home when I'm like 2.5 months old. And now I'm like, who is this man? Because I don't know no man in this house. And then from that point onwards, I had to accept the fact that I have arrived in a house of a different man. This is another man. I am a pastor's kid. So life is going to be like that. So we lived our life without our father. We lived I was born in White City, Chabavu. And because my parents had a Christian Christian club. It was called Young Ambassadors, where young people would come together, pray and all that. But then it was not only the praying and the fasting. There were other political activities that were happening underground. So when daddy goes away to preach, then we were harassed by Amabunu, the Boers. They would kick doors. And I'm growing up in that environment. I am confused. Like, there's God in the house. These people are praying whole night. You know, I'm growing up as a very weak child. I had measles almost all my life. I was very weak, and every time I feel sick, then there are these young people, 15 of them at home. They are praying for me every night. Like, either I'm a demon or I have a demon. Like, I'm growing up very confused. Another time when they are away, it's the Boers kicking the doors and wanting to come in and harassing my mom. You know. So that's the moment when I realized that I'm not like other people. This is going to be an interesting journey, and it has been very interesting.
Wow. And you mentioned that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have, we are 5. I've got 4 siblings, 3 brothers and 1 sister. So it's 3 boys and 2 girls. 3
boys and 2 girls. And
yes.
Your parents just remarried recently. They've been married for how long now? Have they been married?
They've been married for 52 years.
52 years. Your parents been married for 52 years. And let me introduce people to your parents. You know, these are your parents. This is just when they had their, you know, they got remarried after 52 years. Obviously, the wife said, look, we have to do this again. I want to wear that white, you know. and they had it. And your dad is over 80 today, is it?
My dad is 81 years, and my mom is 77.
77 and 81. They've been married for 52 years.
2 years,
you know,
yes.
You know, and you mentioned something around the fact that your dad had a club or like a ministry for young people. Yeah. Is that the same one that the current President Cyril Ramaphosa used to attend? I remember he used to attend one of your dad's, you know, ministry. Was that the same one or different one?
That's the one. He was the first member of that a Christian youth club.
Okay, he was the first member of Christian Youth Club.
Yes.
Oh wow! So we're talking about
he's got the power of first. Now he's number 1 citizen.
Yes, indeed, he's got the power of first, and today he's the first man here in South Africa. Okay, good build up. Good build up. And Bongi, are you with us now? Bongi? No, Bongi's you know, internet is still very problematic. Okay, Makawe, just back to you. For you, how was it like? When did you realize that, you know, your dad is a preacher? When did you realize that you your dad has to be away sometimes. He has to attend to people, or people coming in and going out of the house, that kind of thing, or there is that atmosphere of constant prayer at home and believing God for. When did it, dawn on you that okay, you're growing up in a different family?
You know what? When you're born, you quickly realize that there's going to be people in your life. I remember when we were young kids, living in Kwakwa, people used to come to the house and pray. There'd be people who sleep there, and then you realize that, I'm not like the kid next door. The kid next door, the father comes back from work, have his beers, and sleeps. But in your house, you don't see your father for days upon days, upon months. And you know what? It's a bittersweet experience. I can't sit here and say I enjoyed it, whatnot. Ultimately, I'm a child. I needed a father. For example, I remember, I think I was 13 or 14. I actually counted the number of days that my dad was not at home. In a year, for over 200 days, he was not at home. You understand? Now, the dichotomy is...
under which ministry was that attached to then?
My dad has always been an evangelist.
Yeah, so he was an evangelist that traveled.
Yeah. He started working with Reinhard Bonke.
Yes, Christ for All Nations.
Then, when Christ for All Nations left South Africa, he started his own ministry. So he's been in that evangelism space, and it's you as a Christian, the mandate is to go out and win souls. But how do we balance that with being a father? You understand? And I hear a lot of people saying that, but there's a higher calling, there's a higher purpose. My friend, I'm grown now. You understand? Don't come and throw that at me. You understand? We must have the deeper discussions. One of the biggest problems with being a PK is that your voice becomes irrelevant. I'll tell you why. If you're a PK and you follow your dad's calling, then you become somebody. But if you're a PK, I'm not called Solomon, and I'm not gonna lie. There's no calling in me.
Are you sure you're not called? Maybe you're gonna be called soon.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. And quite easily, you know what I could have done? Let's say when I was 21, I could have told myself initially that I'm called, tagged along, started a very successful church, and then after a while say, I'm handing it over to so-and-so. You understand? Because I know for a fact, and let's talk the truth, I know for a fact there's a lot of pastors' kids who are not called. But because there's an easier route to getting comfortabilities in life, they will supposedly all of a sudden be called. You understand? I know them. we party with them.
We're gonna talk about that later, and maybe you're even gonna name them. I love to name people. I don't just love to...
No, my wife is here. My wife is here. I can't name people.
No, okay. But if wife is there. But how long are you married now?
My parents have been married for 41 years.
41 years. And let me introduce you to his parents. Here's his parents. Recently, they celebrated 41, right? So this is Dr. Katide himself and his lovely wife. And you have siblings also, isn't it?
Yes. I've got 3 sisters and 2 brothers. So there's 6 of us.
6 of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But being like a boy and growing up, what are some of the rituals, spiritual rituals that you do at home that you were forced to do that you didn't like? You know,
Yeah.
because it's a spiritual exercise or spiritual need that you do at home. Because obviously, when you growing up as kids, we wouldn't say all of us, especially you guys like PKs, you wouldn't say everybody loves to get up in the morning and pray. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You know, where they wake you up very early in the morning. You pray the first thing in the morning and you pray the last thing before you go to bed. Everybody must come together. You must sing. You must,
Mm.
you must do a whole lot of stuff. You know, some PKs, some kids struggle with that. You know, those kind of things that you do at home where you have to be here, you have to show up here and all that kind of stuff. What was it for you?
Are you asking me or is Sister Vicky
Yes,
going
I'm
first?
asking you, how was it like for you? How was some of those routines for you growing up?
I hated them. I
Hmm.
hated them with a passion, and I'll tell you why. Um, the fact that, you know, like I mentioned, my father was away a lot, and then this person comes back, and they force you to pray. They force you to fast. Yeah,
Yes,
you
fasting.
understand.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you know, this. I mean, every day you have to wake up in the morning, you have to pray, and at night you have to sing, you have to share the word. I don't have a problem with that, but you must balance the two. You understand?
Hmm.
Um, be there, and then you can share the word. But
Hmm.
yeah, it becomes for me it was more of a punishment more than teaching us to be better Christians. You understand?
I see. I see.
Because you lose the relevance after a while. You ask yourself, why am I praying? You understand?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is a communal God more powerful than an individual God?
I get you. I get you.
Yeah. So no,
So,
I honestly I didn't like them. I still don't like them. I
I
still don't
see.
like them. Yeah, I don't force anyone to pray. If I pray, I would, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning when I wake up, I'd say, God, thank you for everything. Wherever I've failed you, please forgive me. Tomorrow is a brand new day. I'll try and be a better man. And I
Hmm.
don't only pray that. I will practice it in the way I speak to people, in the way I give to people, in the way I offer myself to people.
Hmm. I like your honesty. I like your honesty. But do you think
No,
it was
see,
do you think it was the pressure of you as a young child being kind of like forced to do these things, to go through this routine that took you away from it, or you just growing up you found your own way of prayer, you found your own way of fasting, or you found, you know, you just, you know what I'm saying, you found your own way of doing things differently.
I think as you grow, you define your own Christianity. You know, when we were growing up, there's certain things that are pure Christian dogma. They're not in the Bible. They're not. You understand?
Hmm.
But you know, when you read the word, you realize half the stuff that these guys were talking about was hogwash. You understand? So you learn to define your own form of Christianity and find the God that you want to work for you. You understand?
Right.
And yeah, I lost interest in this mob psychology. I, you know, and that's due to. I mean, one of the questions that I always ask myself is, how African is my Christianity?
Hmm. So you want to
Yeah,
attach your African identity to your faith, that kind of thing together, isn't it?
yeah. It must make sense. It must
Yeah.
make sense that in
Hmm.
2020, as a Zulu man, what does it mean to be a born again Christian in the context of being African? You understand?
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's many questions, but long story short is that, you know, you look at life, and one other crucial thing is being the firstborn. You must remember, I'm sure Sis Vicky will attest to this, being the firstborn.
So you are the firstborn, right?
Yes.
So Vicky is also the firstborn.
I'm second. I'm second.
Oh,
But I know
Wow.
but I know what he means, because there's a firstborn that is a Makau. We have a Makau at home.
Okay, okay.
Oh yes, I remember.
Yes. So we have a firstborn. So I understand the struggles of firstborns. You know, what they've been through, when they open their eyes, they open the way in everything. You have to pray. You have to do this. You have no choices. You cannot take your own decisions. Every decision is attached to bazothina bazalwane. What will Christians say? Everything you have to do, it's about what will Christians say. But what about me as a human being? I want to go to the movies. I want to wear pants. I want to put on earrings, which was a problem for me at early stages. The only thing that saved me was the music industry. Then I was accepted. My father accepted it, that I can put on earrings. I can put on pants, because I had to be a good example. I had to, when they talk about a good girl, a good pastor's kid, you know, I'm holy, and my holiness, I'm not putting on my pants, you know. So I must show holiness by not being. I started wearing jujet, long dresses, jujet, at the age of 9, and at the age of 9, I was putting on high heels with big ribbons, black and white. And I was most of the time I'm at home, I am cooking. I can't go play. The only time I go out of the house is when I go to a Christian youth club, which is Youth Alive Ministries, or when I go to SCM, or when I go to church. But I can't go to the movies. I can't go play with other kids, because they will teach me wrong things. So I was not given that opportunity of being myself. I don't know what adolescence is. That is why at times when people talk about adolescent stage, I wanted to do that. I wanted to mess up. I wanted to be crazy for myself. I wanted to learn for myself, but I was overprotected. I was overcovered, not because I was covered because they loved me that much. Yes, they loved me, but to them it was, what will the church say if Vicky, you fall pregnant? If we let you go, if we release you, and you fall pregnant now, what will the church say? What will the board members say? What will the elders say? What will the youth say? So every time I do something, I'm not even thinking about God anymore. I'm not even thinking about what the Bible is saying, you know. I'm only thinking about what will Christians say, you know. And that is why when we grow up, at times I look at myself. I'm a very crazy. I'm a salad of things. At times I'm very formal and very serious, and at times I'm very playful. At times I cry now. At times I'm happy now. I don't understand myself. I don't know myself. So it's many stages of life that I had. They were suppressed by being a PK, that are now coming back. And I'm today I'm like Cape Town weather. Today I'm hot, in the morning I'm hot, midday I'm cold, you know. So I have to learn to say, now I'm going to preach. So I've got to wear that robe that my father wore, that seriousness. I've got to be serious. Now I'm going on stage to sing. Now I have to look like an artist and have fun. Now I'm appearing, I'm representing my parents. Now I am Vicky, I want to play. At times I play, and I'm scared of what will people say when they see me play. That is why I play in my private space. I make videos. I take videos of myself playing and I post them. But there is a very 13-year-old Vicky beyond, or when we shut off the screens, people who live with me, they know there is a serious 13-year-old in me, because I was not allowed to be 13 years old. I had to be an adult. I had to be a church member. I had to be a chorus leader. I had to be opening in prayer. I had to do all those things, you know. I had to be holy when I didn't even know what holiness was. To me at that time, holiness was not was to putting on a long dress, you know. So for me, well, it did not affect me that much, because I found myself falling in love with Jesus. And when I fell in love with him, I fell in love with all the blessings or all the gifts that he has given me. I do preaching not because I'm a PK. And I tell people that don't call me pastor. I'm not a pastor, but I am a preaching Christian. I'm a preaching Christian. I'm not a pastor. I never went to a Bible school, and I was never even ordained. But Izang, when I preach, I'm telling you, you will lie down on your stomach like you cannot contain yourself. But what I'm saying is, I'm just a daughter in the house serving.
Right.
I'm not a pastor because I'm a pastor's kid. You know what I mean? So this topic it's got a lot of things in one thing. So you live for other people. You don't live for your relationship with God until you grow up and you say it is about me and God.
I
was young when I got into the music industry. Whenever I go overseas, when kids were kids doing stuff at night after performances, I didn't do those stuff not because God was watching me, but I didn't do those stuff because I was thinking about what if the church hears about it back home.
Oh, I see.
But now when I grow up, I learned that it is a relationship between me and God, and it takes maturity.
That's right. I have a comment here from Uche Agu. I'm sure you know him. Uche, my God is in the US. He's watching. He said, I'm also a pastor's kid, PK for short.
Yeah.
Well done, my people. And there was a comment from somebody earlier on, actually asking Makawe. He said, look, the last time you had a PK's meeting, you had only one child. What happened? So you have to explain yourself there, Makawe. And then Vicky, here's a comment from Ruma. She said, Vicky, you are a national treasure. So there's quite a lot of comments here that I'm gonna be posting and putting in there. But Vicky, you were the first. Were you the first girl?
Yes, I was the first girl.
The first girl. So that would bring some sort of a little bit of an expectation on you then, because then you had another sister, Gift, who is younger than you, and then you are the first female. So you have to set a certain example for you between you and your brother. Do you feel the pressure was a little bit on you as a female, or him, or was it just your parents were able to get that sort of balance?
My brother followed a comradeship journey, so he he made it clear that he comrade umzabalazo, so me, I had to be that firstborn that my father would say, when are you my daughter, when my father does spring cleaning every Fridays, he would do stuff with me. When he has a verse that blesses him, he would do stuff with me. My father is the one who taught me how to cook. When he teaches me how to cook, we're talking the Bible, So, but for me, I think what helped me was that I was a very I still am. I'm a very homely person. I'm not outgoing. I'm a very indoor person. So for me, it was not difficult. And then my sister came, Gift. Gift. Yes. Gift would Gift did everything that PKs don't do.
So she got away with a lot of things.
I think Gift has 39 stripes on her body. She did everything.
Discipline of the rods.
Lashes, Oh yeah. So so we were different. The brother is comrade, and Vicky is this disciplined child. I think also it's because when I was growing up, I was very weakly. I see my brother Nkulego says, I agree with Macau. Christianity must be defined in the context of being an African. And there was my sister Gift, and there was this and there was this one Nkulego. This one is another Makawe. He wants to dissect, he wants to cut it in pieces. When we say in the beginning, he wants to know what is in the I and in the N and in the B and in the but to have such people, it has changed the game. It has brought sense even to our fathers, because they were growing up. The gospel that they were carrying and preaching was the gospel of the missionaries, and that was it. God created heaven and earth, and it wasn't making any sense. Now, when Nkulego came now into the picture, he made this. No, the last one is an evangelist like my father. He has a long journey. He still has some lessons to learn like my father. But when Nkulego came, so he had a way of the Africanism that he's talking about. He had a way of bringing God in Africa. He had a way of saying of bringing God to make sense, not the God of Abraham and Isaac, but he had a way of showing us the God of, he usually say, the God of Bethania, the God of Helbron. That's my father. So he taught us the God of my father, not the God of Isaac and the God of Abraham. So my siblings, we were very different, but that being different has made us to be one, and it has helped us together to tolerate being a PK. Otherwise, if I was alone or just the two of us, I would have gone crazy. And as a PK, another thing is that you don't get the things that other kids are getting. My father goes to preach. At that time, there was no honorarium. When father comes back home, the only honorarium my father brings is a stack of blankets. There's a corner of blankets. And when my father comes back home, you hear the sound of the chicken that daddy's back home, you know, because my father has been given a blanket. And for that reason, I hated being a pastor. And I promised myself I will never marry a pastor. When a pastor greets me and say, "Hi, sister," before he finishes it, I'll run for my life, you know. But God has a way of doing things.
If you don't want to marry a pastor, you can marry a bishop. How about that?
No. Then I decided that I will not marry a title. I will marry a man, a heart.
We shall see.
We shall see. That's good. There's quite a lot of comments, you know, from people. There's a comment from Apostle Edgar's here. He says many church members judge even more than God does. It's like you want to show God how to do his job or take over, you know. So, and somebody here also said that is still Apostle saying PKs have it hardest. So many expectations, you know, and it's the expectation is there, and it's really wonderful to hear you guys talk about that, you know. And there are a lot of PKs here. Some of you guys just joined us. If you just joined us, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel. There are other videos there that you can get to watch, but this is Solomon's Temple, and we're talking to Vicky Vilakazi. A lot of you guys know her, you know, from the Days of Joy celebration. She's been an independent artist herself. They run a record label with her brother and family, and also they have the Soweto Spiritual Singers, and you know, they travel and tour around the world. So that's what she does, you know, today quite a lot. She didn't turn up to be a pastor or an evangelist per se like her dad. I'm sure he's disappointed, but let's leave that to the side. And then we also have Matawe Katide, you know, he's more on the creative side, you know, a marketer of note, and also trying to communicate. He's also a communicator. You're also a communicator, you know, communicate visions and be able to have some sort of influence over it. So, and you guys, your story is Bongiwe was supposed to join us, but her network is just very problematic. I'm sure she's not going to be able to join us. She just lost her dad. So we actually want to do this, you know, just say this program is just in memory of her dad. If maybe I can put the banner on for some of you guys that know her dad. He was a bishop. He passed away just a couple of months ago, actually. Just a couple of months ago. But now to you, Makawe, just for you, what was it like? Some of the things that you were growing up that your dad say or your parents say. You are obviously, you know, you're a pastor's son, you're a son of an evangelist. Don't do this. But then for you, it doesn't make sense for them to tell you not to do it, you know, especially as a young person. Let's zoom in to say, okay, like your teenage years, you know, but for you, you went ahead and did it anyway. And today you can look back and say, look, actually, it wasn't a big deal, or actually, I shouldn't have done it because today I knew why they actually told me not to do it.
whatever my parents told me not to do, I did it. Every single thing. Listen, clubbing, listen, I did it all.
Yeah.
You understand? And one of the reasons is ultimately,
No. Yeah.
ultimately, okay, this is my story from church, right? I grew up a church boy, so I was in the church choir. We used to go to church and hold whole night prayers, brother services, whatnot. And then I went to Model C schools, right? Now in Model C schools, you get there. I mean, we were one of the first black people to go to the Model C schools. When you get there, people your age are dating, and it looks beautiful. Now you go to this AFM church of yours, and then they say, you can't date, and that to me did not reconcile. You understand? On top of fighting apartheid, you are fighting your church that tells you you can't date. And I remember I had an altercation with one of the guys at church who took me to the side and said, "Hey, we know that you and sister so and so what." And I decided that day that, listen, this is not what I want. You understand? If you say I can't date, give me the reasons. Don't tell me I'll impregnate. That's not a reason to me. Don't just come to me and say, Makawe, don't have a girlfriend. No, elaborate to me. Tell me, you understand? And it was this ambiguous gospel that I didn't agree with. So I sort of stepped away from church activities, you understand? And I could see that these things are hurting my parents. But when you are young, Solomon and Sis Vicky, when you are young, consequences are not your problem. You don't worry about. I mean, I used to drink like a fish, as in like get really hammered, wake up tomorrow with a hangover, go to church and sit there and listen to this guy, and you remember that, okay, I had this prayer, this sermon 2 years ago on the 4th of May. All you think about is where to get your next fix. So church to me became boring. You understand? Because as a teenager, there's no pathway. There's no. I mean, now churches have adapted. They've become savvy in attracting young people. But in our age, all you could not. All they said to young people is do not, and you must pray and fast for somebody. God will bless you with a wife, whatnot. And it's like, man, nah, man. No, my biology says there has to be attraction. Before you tell me I must fast for 40 days so that God gives me a wife, how do we separate that from biology? There has to be attraction. You understand? So those questions made me, you understand? Yeah, made me not really be passionate about church. And that was evident even here in the house. You understand? When they pray, you pray the same mundane prayer, and it's problematic. And now that I'm a father, I need to tread very carefully. You understand? Because I'm raising my kids in a specific way, and my parents still. We have got a close relationship with my parents, but they raise my kids in a specific way, which is how they raise me. They know no other way. You understand? So it's a struggle. It's a struggle, Solomon. I mean, I still get questions of why are you not following your dad's footsteps? To me, that question
why are you not
is yeah, it's first of all, it's insensitive. They're not respecting who I am as a person. Let me tell you a funny story. We went to some function over the weekend, right? And these people were preaching there. some of the stuff that they were saying as Christians was very worrisome. You understand? Was very worrisome. And my thinking, or how I felt, was that, you know, you get so engrossed in being a child of God or a pastor or a whatnot, that you build lies around that, which are not necessarily biblical. You understand? And the people that your friends and families believe that lie. Now, how I want to live my life is this for, okay, let me say this to you and Sis Vicky and the viewers. How I want to live my life is, I want to live my life as honest as possible. I want to go to church when my spirit says, Makawe, go to church, not obligatory. And lastly, I want to love my wife and my children with the honesty that God expects. Nothing more, nothing less. Forget the riches, forget the fame, forget the what. We as a church, let me say this, we as a church have added salt and pepper and Tabasco and whatnot, because we are competing with other religions, because we are competing with other forms of Christianity. We've made this thing that is so beautiful to turn into something so complex that, for me, Makawe Katide, it does not work. You understand? It does not work when 90% of the churches that you go to, they peddle this prophecy, or they want to prophesy. That frustrates me. You understand? And some of these prophecies, you sit there and somebody prophesy over your life, you think, guy, come on, relax, you know. Relax. Let's worship God. Let's pray together. Don't lay hands on me. Sometimes I refuse. And this is where people sometimes say I'm controversial. Somebody would come to me and say, I've got a word for you. And I said, I'll tell them straight up, sorry, no, nonsense.
Why?
They say,
Why do you do that?
Because my spirit is not in tune with what they're saying.
Okay.
Now, if somebody is going to give you a life-changing prophecy, I'm pretty sure the God that we serve tunes you, aligns you to somebody. Let's say somebody says to you, Solomon, God is going to give you 10 million tomorrow. If you, Solomon, have never held 10 million, if you don't know what 10 million is, God will make a plan that you understand what it is that He's going to do to you. You know, there's too many people that lay hands. Why do you lay hands on me? Why? Explain why you want to lay hands on me. Don't come and say, God said I must lay hands on you. I don't know you. You see, and that's the frustration with me, that people have added so much salt into this thing that it's foreign to me. It's foreign. And since Vicky mentioned that, you know, there's the gospel of the missionaries, you understand? I mean, I've gone through the stages, Solomon. You know, I know the missionaries.
I was going to ask you, both of you guys, how do you feel the gospel that you saw, especially your parents, preach? Did it affirm your identity as an African? You know, or was there a Western culture driven that in some of the things that you don't agree with? You know, because for me, the gospel should affirm your identity as an African, as an Asian, as a European, you know, in your context. You know, the gospel is only making me understand that I am Nigerian, that I am African. When I read scriptures, that's what I see. You know what I'm saying? So was there that tension, or it was kind of like easy to be able to do that? Just so us as African, we understand that this scripture we need to apply it in our own context, not in somebody else's context that came as a missionary or whatever.
For me, when I was growing up, Christianity to me was just, I'm living on earth, I've got to be holy because there are streets of gold waiting for me in heaven. So I'm fighting so hard not to tell lies so that I can walk on those streets. I'm fighting so hard not to be pregnant before I get married. I'm fighting so hard, and the issue there was not really being pregnant before or after. What is it that you have done, that makes you fall pregnant? So the focus was not so much on the things that of sinning, but it was on the result, So only when I was growing up and getting exposed, like I mentioned earlier on, that then I have people who are like my brothers who want to make sense out of everything, who are researching, who are readers, who read, and they come back to say, my brother, my younger brother, Nkulego, sits mama down. My mother is holding on to that evangel lakudala elasikhulula ezonweni, that old time religion that at times does not really make sense, For instance, I'll just make an example. Maybe some will stone me for saying this, but let me just be honest. I know you asked something about Africanism, but let me just take a short left. I once said to my mom, mom, this gospel that was preached to me, it delayed me in life as a woman. It delayed me in life as a woman, because you told me, like Makawe said, ungajoli, you mustn't date. But you didn't tell me when to date and how to date. The only thing I know is that I must know how to cook. I must know how to be an African woman so that God can give me a husband, So all those things. And I said to my mom, mom, I'm going to allow my kids to have children before they even get married, so that they can grow up having their own children. Because I was feeling like I got delayed because I wanted to please my parents' God, Even when I was trying to be a good woman, and you meet the sharks as you go along the way, but you are taught to be this good woman, this a woman of God, this African woman who has values, who has principles, but you are not taught that when you meet sharks, this is how you deal with it. And when you sit down and you're like, Vicky, you got married, now you're getting married at this age. Are you really going to have children? And you look back and you're like, yeah, no, I was delayed by this thing, I was delayed by this old time religion, But then let me just get back to what you're saying. It took people like my brother, people who are researching, to come and speak sense, because we've got this culture at home. At least they open the platform of sitting down and talking. When they teach us about the Bible, when they talk about God and the Bible, they open a platform to say, well, now what do you think? My parents are not like those pastors who would say, this is how you should do it, and there's no other way. This is how it should go, and you have no say. So as I go and be exposed to the world, meeting different people, then I get to find myself in the Bible. I get to know where an African person comes in the Bible. I get to understand the scriptures. I get to know that the part that was played by an African in the Bible. I get to understand that being an African is not dirty. Being an African, because to us a devil was black, but a Jesus or a God was always white. So for me to be black was like, I am the only person who deserves, as a black person, I'm the only person who deserves. Grace was designed and crafted for a black person, because anyway, I'm black. It wasn't for me. It was for a white Jesus and a white God. So me, I fall on the devil's side because the devil is black. So everything that is evil is black, but everything that is holy and righteous is white. Everything that is pure is white. So it took being exposed to different people and traveling a lot and meeting a lot of people, discussing and talking about these things, to realize that there is me in the Bible. Now I look at the Bible and I find me. I find an African child. I find an African woman in the Bible. So now there's now two groups of people. So the old pastors, when a Makawe comes and they say, and he says, I'm an African, and he says, I want to find me in the Bible, then they say you are demon possessed. Let us pray for you. You must cut off those dreadlocks because they are full of the devil, you know, all those things. So we need to find balance. We need to then come together. We need a platform that says, okay, Bishop Joshua Maponga says this, and he says that. Is there no truth in some of the things that he is saying? Before we devilize or we satanize, or before we send him to hell, why don't we just sit back and say, but who are we in the Bible? Let us listen before we send him to hell. So the problem with us is that the gospel we're given, you are so holy, you don't question the papa, you don't question the priest, you don't question the bishop. When you it's only the pastor and the bishop who hears from God. The Spirit of the Lord speaks to them when you must hear what God is saying through them only. But as time goes on, I believe that God is revealing things to to his sons. So we must be able to say, we must not hold on to the gospel of 1700, and we're saying these kids are bringing the gospel of 20 something. But we are learning as time goes on. So yes, as I am growing, I'm getting to find me in the Bible, and I'm getting more interested in the Bible than that religion that made me as a black person to be devilish and to be evil.
Now, Makawe, for you being a Sutu, are you Sutu?
No, I'm Zulu.
Zulu, being a Zulu speaking person, and your identity as a Zulu person, so obviously it comes with the cultural identity, and also as a South African, you know, how did you navigate your way around scriptures, especially when you being somebody who loves to question things? So obviously you're gonna see scriptures, or you're gonna hear certain things that like, this doesn't make sense because it doesn't resonate with me as an African with my identity. How did you navigate those sort of like tension points?
I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard because, first of all, I'm not one of those PKs that quote the Bible like the back of their heads. I don't see a need to. If I want to read a scripture, I will go to the Bible and read it. You know, there's guys who go, but I don't. I don't see the need. So what I do is, okay. Now my tension point here is I've got kids now, right? And my own parents spend so much time teaching me about God and heaven, and you understand, and they forgot to teach me my Zulu heritage. You know, you look at the Jewish community, Jewish people, Jewish boys know their culture like the back of their hand. You understand? We don't. Once I say you know, I miss my grandfather, you know, maybe I should go to his grave, clean his grave, which has nothing to do with worship, by the way. You just miss that person and you want to clean the grave. Christians would say that's very demonic. You understand? Now, to me, how is it demonic when they went to watch Jesus in his grave? What's the difference between the two? You understand? So as we've demonized our culture so much that, referring back to my point, our the Christianity that is being peddled now, it's for me, it's not my identity. It sounds nice, you know, when you use big words and whatnot, but me as a Zulu person, okay, for example, how do I say to my son, first and foremost, before you, because you must remember that what's salvation is a personal thing. Before he becomes saved, he must learn that he's a Zulu man. You understand? And according to our culture, this is done, this is not done, this is, you understand? Obviously, with the evolution of the society that we're in. But he must understand that. Now, I'm in a position where I know nothing. Ask me to quote a verse now, I probably will. But as a Zulu man, I know nothing. You understand? And it's actually embarrassing. I was having a discussion with some doctor friends of mine, and they too were saying, we are doctors, we've got degrees, you know, we in terms of the medical space, we know the Bible, but as a petty man, I know nothing. You understand? Now, in the greater context, how do we then claim to be free as Christians from all forms of bondage if we don't know who we are? Now, that's my big worry. Now, my comfort is that, you know, I always go back to prayer and I say, you know what, God, I don't know what I'm doing. Give me guidance. You understand? And what's important is you always look at the situation with the hope that the decision you are making now is both correct for your kids, for your family, and yourself in terms of progression and lineage and whatnot. But it's difficult, Solomon. It's difficult. I mean, I've got a lot of Jewish friends who, when we speak about religion, I feel as if I know nothing. I know Jesus is the Savior. I know God exists. I know the Holy Spirit. I know, but the context when they talk about how important the Torah is to their everyday life, you understand? I'm like, yeah, no, yes, Jesus saves. Yes, Jesus saves. Now, to me as an African, and I'm not an academic, but I've got a very inquisitive mind. You know, when I can't give answers, I get very annoyed. Now, I can assure you this. There's many PKs out there who are in the same predicament, who will ask the same question. I'm born again. I believe everything about salvation, everything that's written in the Word. But how is this enhancing my own life as an African?
And that's the big question. The more we look at scriptures, how does it translate? How does it impact our life? We must never see Christianity as a Western belief, as a Western, faith. A lot of it happened in Africa. A lot of it happened in Asia, in the Middle East. And we must take our time to say, how does it apply to me? How does it apply to me as a Zulu man? How does it apply to me as a Swahili person, as a Shona person? How does it apply to me as a Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa person in Nigeria? How does it apply to me? You put it in context, and God is definitely going to show you quite a lot in there, and I feel, even as for you guys who are PKs, sometimes there is that tension that happens there, that somehow defines or alienate a lot of people from who really they are, from their culture. God loves cultures. He's the one that created this diversity of cultures because of the beauty in it. The beauty in languages, what we wear, our customs, our traditions, how we do our marriages, how we respect our elders, how we talk, is so beautiful, but we must keep it and not try to be like somebody else, or try to go into, yes, we can look at other cultures and learn from them, as long as, it's only going to enrich our culture, but not to try to turn around and look at and be like them. Now, your parent has been married for 41 years. Vicky, your parents have been married for 52 years. What would you guys say? You can look at both your dad and your mom and say, yeah, for me, for you, Makawi, becoming a father, you pick this and this and this as a strength of your dad as a parent, and what would you say, like, this one, no, I'm not going to, these are some of the things that I feel he didn't get it right, so I've learned from that, and that would only make me a better parent. And also your mother, Vicky, even your dad, when you look at, okay, for you, your dad is this kind of man, not just a man of God, but he's this kind of man. And because he's this kind of man, at least he's given me a picture of who a true man that loves God should be like, So for you, that is like a standard, or like values that is there for you in bringing your family together. But how do you look at both your parents and say, here, as parents, as a father, as a mother, they did this right. Here, I don't think they did it right. They were not around or whatever, that kind of situation. Let's start with you, Makawe.
Look, that's a very difficult question. But I tell you now, the only reason my parents are still together is the grace of God. Yeah. The only reason, and I know this might be controversial, but I'm telling the truth. The only reason my parents are still together is the grace of God. Right? Now, you must remember that being especially from my mother's point of view, being a pastor's wife, especially in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, it was a very lonely life. You have a husband, but he's never there. When he's here, he's tired. Even when he's home, there's other people that come and want to. And you must remember that my dad is not only an evangelist, he's also a marriage counselor, and he does his sex talks and whatnot. So it's very busy. Now, ideally, I would not allow it. Okay, if my daughter was married to somebody like that, I would not be comfortable. You understand? Because it's a very lonely life. Because
and just to get it clear, Makawe, just to get it clear, your mom herself, she isn't a pastor, is she? Is she a pastor like full time, or she is just your father's wife? You know, that kind of thing. Is she an ordained pastor? Was she called also? Both of them were called. I was called in that kind of like pastoral.
And you see, that's a bigger discussion for another day, my friend. The one where a pastor marries a sister so and so, and then this sister so and so is forced to take on a role that she's not called for to start off with, and secondly, she does not want to do it. But because you love this man, you'll toe the line. And like Sister Vicky said, there's a lot of church pressure that a lot of ladies face. So my mom is an ordained pastor, but there's politics. You know, if you study with this church will not ordain you as their pastor. So yeah, I will not name churches here, but there's that politic which I think is absolute nonsense. But anyway, so yeah, it was very hard for her, because you must remember that she had to also play the fatherly role. You understand, when my dad was not there, and it's heavy. It's heavy, and you can see now that this is an assumption, but when you look at her, if she was not born again, or if she had no love for all things that are God orientated, she would have left long time ago. Because it's hard, and I feel for pastors' wives, especially those who play a supporting role. You must remember that in modern day pastors, marriages, there's that equality, but my mom and my dad, they're very old school, so my mom will always play that supporting role. And you must remember that my mom also plays a big social role in the community. So people come and she gives them food and whatnot. So that's more or less her role in the whole thing. But it's been very, very, very hard. Even on my dad's side, now he's tired. One thing that selfish, I'm gonna say this, and I'll get crucified for it. But one thing that selfish Christians don't realize is that if you've been preaching for over 40 years, almost every Sunday, and traveling 30 of those years, you will get tired. But Christians don't understand that. You understand? The Christians still think God will give this man power to stand in front of the pulpit and do miracles. It's not physiologically possible. There must be an exit strategy for pastors where you say, I am Fundis, you've served God, you've won souls, but what you must do now is just focus on your family. And that's the difficulty with guys my father's age or above. You understand? To them, it's heaven or nothing. They will die preaching. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you know Pastor Richard Ngidi.
Ngidi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Richard Ngidi was diabetic, right? And apparently this guy, after each sermon, after preaching each evening, he used to do a lot of crusades. He used to down 2 liters of Coke. How do you down 2 liters of Coke being diabetic? And one of the big things that PKs, one of the big problems that we have as PKs is that to the world, our fathers, most of the time, are these shining beacons of Christ's kingdom and whatnot. But when they come back to us, when they are ready to be fathers, they are empty shells. They're tired. All they want to do is not be fathers. You understand? And that's my big problem, Solomon. That especially for me, I'm not called. I can't say to my dad, listen, Dad, I feel sorry for you. I'll carry the baton, whatnot. No, I'm not there. You understand? Now,
Right.
where do we say, where do we as a community, as a church say, Pastor so and so, you've served well, you've served with distinction, here is your merit of service, whatnot, go stay. And this is a problem predominantly with the black pastors. White pastors retire. There's a guy that's retired. He's touring the world with his wife, same age as my dad. You understand? Now, why the guilt when it comes to our fathers, where they say, no, we can't, there's still a lot of, no, man, relax. God will always bring up people. So in terms of the union, it's been hard. It's been hard. You understand? I mean, one of the things that I vow to do is be at home as much as possible. You understand?
Yeah.
To be with my wife, to be with my 3 children. If I can bath them every day, so be it. If I can cook, I love cooking. I love my wife seldom cooks, not because she's a bad cook, but she's carried 3 beautiful kids for me. You understand? She's done enough. You understand? So I think I would not spend so much time. I mean, the other time we were invited to preach somewhere in the Western area, and the suggestion was that we sleep there. I said, "Nee, man, how can I, a married man, leave my wife here and go sleep somewhere else?" I said, it's wrong, and pastors need to hear this. If you are able to sleep at home, sleep at home. Don't use that opportunity to not sleep at home. You understand? The problem is, and this is what pastors don't realize, if you're a pastor and you get into the habit of not sleeping at home, your wife can do the same. And that's where the abuse starts. That's another discussion for another day. These pastors that club their wives that are abusive, you must stop it in the name of Jesus. It's ungodly. It's wrong.
Amen. Sis Vic.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Sis Vic, you're looking at your parents for you. Wow.
Yeah, for me, I would.
I know you're not married yet, so that's one of the reasons why I invited you here, so everybody would see you, how beautiful you are.
No, we will find somebody for her.
She's precious. So we have to not somebody, that person.
When Jesus was in the public space, he would speak in parables. but when he gets into the secret place, he would open things. So when I'm in the public space, I speak in parables, but in the private space, it's a different language that is being spoken. So
what exactly are you saying?
That's the thing. That's the thing. We are on a public space, so I'm paraboling you. All right. So after this, then I'm gonna be opening things to you.
Oh,
okay.
All right. You know what? In 2016, pastors must learn they must understand that there was a point in life where Jesus cried. And Jesus cried when Lazarus died. Jesus cried, and he did not cry as God, but he cried as a mere man, which means there is a point in life where you must be able to differentiate from this man of God, this spiritual man, and just a mere man. You know, because we see our parents, we travel with our pastors, we see them as giants of the gospel, and they're given names, they're given those big names, you know, when they preach. But when we go back home, we see the mere man. Now, the mere man, if the mere man is not taken good care of, health-wise, how you eat, how you rest, and all the stuff, the mere man's weak points or weakness, or when the mere man collapses, he will collapse openly. Sometime in 2016, it was in April, I think. We accompanied my father. He went to preach in Carltonville at Pastor Ndlebende's church. You know, my father was preaching them, and we know he was going through a lot of stress. You know, church stress, local church stress. So we accompanied him. My father preached and preached and preached. As he was preaching, he collapsed on the pulpit. Now, when he falls down, when he collapses, Christians were going in there. Oh Lord, touch them, Father. And me, knowing, I looked at my father on the floor. I went running on my heels. I went down and I looked at his eyes. And I said to the pastor, I need a car, get a car out. My father needs to get to the doctor, you know?
Straight.
He was taken to a hospital from the church. He was there for about 2 to 3 hours. They're trying to resuscitate him. And the Monday, pastors, kids, and families, you must take a stand. If you don't say no, if you don't draw a line for your parents, we will lose them. On a Monday, we had a meeting at home with my siblings and my father. We told him the church is closed, and that's when the church was closed. Because he's grown, he's old. He loves evangelism. My father loves crusade life. When you invite him to preach and you give him 4 days, he says, no, you are killing the build up. I must take it slowly. And for 2 weeks, you must, you know, I don't want nobody to interfere because there's a build up, even at his age. And then we said to him, okay, Dad, that's all right. You close church. You cannot pastor, you need to retire, but then you will do itinerary preaching. You can be invited, because we have failed to try to get him down. And when we think we have him sitting down, we'll see a car on a Sunday coming to pick him up because we are refusing to take him there. But he has a way of, when he talks to these pastors, when they invite him, then they organize transport to come pick him up. So we realize that this man is gonna rest in heaven. And now, when it comes to my mom, my mother, most pastors' wives are diabetic. Most pastors' wives are diabetic. I'm gonna say that again and again.
Wow.
Looking at the stresses that they go through. I have watched my mother's life. I have seen my mother trying to make ends meet at home. I have seen my mother trying to put every meal on the table. I have seen Daddy going to preach and come back home, but my mother has to make sure that there's vegetables, there's this, there's that, and there's this, there's that. I have seen my mother trying to make sure that the kids go to school. All what my father is doing is karabakashitende Rebecca. You know, I have seen Mama going to church, and those sisters who are chorus leaders thinking and even saying it that my mother don't deserve my father. They themselves are more anointed than my mother, because when they sing, old women cry, they scream, and they think they are more anointed than my mother. They don't know what this woman, they don't know how of a pillar this woman is. But then the problem is that pastors' wives, they try to be strong. You know, there are things that my mother went through that she was hiding all the years. I only learned about those things. She now came open when I was involved in an accident, and then I had to sell my house and come back home. And because she was nursing me, that was the time when my mother opened up. That was the time when I realized that I ain't gonna be no pastor's wife. That was the time when I realized that no, this is not my calling. I cannot be that. You know. So now I have taken it on me. I'm literally, I am hands on my mother's health. I had to go to Baragwanath Hospital for a month. I took classes for diabetes. So I am nursing my mother for myself and for our family. I check on my mom. Mom, how is your sugar now? Take this, take that, take this. You know, I am protecting. So the things that I have learned is that you cannot be a hero for everybody. There is a spiritual man and there is a mere man. And I have learned from their mistakes. Another thing that I've learned is that they are human beings. They are just vessels. They are just clay that was just appointed or called to be used. And that does not remove who they really are. That does not remove some of the character or some of the things that they are, that they have. I had to learn to understand that when my father is at home, he's a father, he's not a pastor, because at times he makes mistakes. He makes mistakes of a normal man, a mere man. So I told myself that if it happens that my father does something wrong, or my mother does something wrong, or they go to hell, I'm not saved by their blood, but I'm saved by the blood of Jesus. And now the relationship is between me and God. So in whatever stage of life where I grew up in my parents' house and they made mistake and they took wrong decisions in life, I never hated them for that, but I encouraged them and I prayed for them. And I said to myself, they are not perfect people. They are fighting towards perfection. So what the advice I would give to us as kids, as pastors' kids, is that no one will take care of your mama for you. No one will take care of your daddy for you. You've got to take it. There are times where you have to force them to sit down. By the way, when Katite, I remember there was a time when your daddy used to come with you at my parents' house. We were so young, and then nanny food to you were very young. You're like red small things. You know the way he has 3 kids in 3 years. That's how Katite, the junior doctor, did it. You know. So they used to come visit us. Babkati, they used to come to my father's house. But at that time, we were young. So I don't know if you were one of them, because all of you are a copy of your father. But what I'm saying is that as PKs, let us not just be angry. These people went into this thing because they loved it. And they forgot about themselves. They forgot about the mere men. They forgot about the children that they are raising. They forgot about their families. Yes, there were times when my father forgot about us. There are things I wish my father did for us. There are things I wish my father was here. My father would attend my school meetings as a child. How I wish that daddy would be there to help me with homework. But I never experienced those things. Am I angry? No, I'm not angry. What am I saying? I have learned how to do things. I have learned which things not to do anymore. But then those times are gone. We are living in a new era. We cannot be angry. We cannot also be angry at God. You know, it was a learning curve. We were put there for a purpose. God trusted me that if I put Vicky in the life of this man, she will handle it. So now that I have seen these things and I have learned, I know what not to do in the future, and I know how to do it and how not to do it.
So what's your last advice for pastors? I mean, you are older now, so give advice to pastors, you know, how to really conduct themselves. Single pastors who are single, pastors who are married, who have kids, you know, what would you say from your experience? coming from the family that you've come from, and also doing what you do as a gospel artist, you
Yeah.
interact with pastors a lot.
The advice I would give to pastors, that they must take seriously the verse that says, watch and pray. They must not close both eyes to pray. This
Right.
other eye must be open to look after the family and to protect their wives. Because if the pastor is praying too much, and there are vultures there who are busy with the family, who are busy with the pastor's wife, it is the pastors who are giving or who are opening the door to the people who are mistreating the pastor's wives. If pastors can protect their wives and put them in a position or at a pedestal where people will understand and say, this is my wife, whatever. For an example, I'll make just a simple example. When my father had birthdays, these sisters would always remember my father's birthday. They would always send presents to my father. But when it is my mother's birthday, it is just like one of those days, you know. So again, I would say my father had two eyes closed praying. If he had one open watching and the other one praying, he would be able to teach them and say, the way you treat me is the way you treat my wife. So if pastors can take a stand, I'm telling you how pastors' wives are treated, it will be different. Pastors' wives are not just a flower pot that is put at the corner there to wear a matching suit with you so that they can make you look good and look beautiful. They are human beings. They can think. They are pillars. You are because they are behind you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Makawe, last words from you. Advice for pastors. Advice for pastors' kids from both sides. I mean, your advantage is you see things from both sides by virtue of the fact that you grew up a PK.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I'd like to start with in closing is that, Sisvik, I understand when you say you're not angry, but maybe your journey is not similar to other people's journey. So if people are angry, allow them to be angry. Allow them to vent when the time is right.
There's actually a comment here. Somebody saying that a 52-year-old that is still angry.
Yeah.
From growing up as a PK, you're 52 and you're still angry. So I mean, I understand everybody processes it differently. Her perspective is so that we help her not to put anger. But some people, it takes a bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know how deep rooted some problems are. So our advice should be, when the time is right, you will heal. Healing. This and this is the prayers that Christians have. That God heal now. Yeah. Okay. At His own discretion, God will heal you. You understand? Not by the intensity of your prayer. God is God. You understand? Anyway, so my advice is to PKs, my fellow PKs. It's hard. Whoever sits and says it's not hard, they're not telling the truth. It's hard because some of you are not born again, so you can't be having half of this conversation we're having because it's based on the fact that we are born again. So it's hard, but the advice I can give you is your time will come. Be patient, love yourself, forgive yourself. We do things and then and hope I hope they didn't see me, whatnot. No, whatever you've done, forgive yourself. God has forgiven you. Ultimately, it's between you and God. I mean, there's certain things that Christians will never forgive me for, and I am not bothered. You understand? They'll never forgive me for half of the things I've done in my life. It's fine. But the fact remains, I'm a child of God, and I'm the only Makawe Katide There is no other. Christians tend to try, and especially these spiritual sons, they try and replace you in your parent's life when he's well and preaching and whatnot. But when said pastor falls ill, you're the one who takes him to the hospital. You're the one who has to make sure. So it's very hard. You're not only a son, you become a nurse, you become a financial advisor, you become many things. But the blessing is, God sees what you're doing. People might not, people might not. Solomon, let me give you one example there. I remember when I was unemployed and I phoned some other guy who's a mutual friend between me and my dad. So I said to this guy, hey, boss, I need to go somewhere. I've got an interview, whatnot, with some guys. I need gas money. That guy said, no, it's rough now. I know this guy's got money. You understand? A few weeks later, he had a discussion with my dad, and he says, no, pastor, send your bank account number. He gave my dad a few thousands, right? Now, it is such discrimination, and I'm surprised we haven't mentioned that yet. It is such discrimination that chases away PKs from the gospel. When you have a genuine need and you expect people that your father has served all his life to chip into your life so that you stay on track, they're not bothered, but they would give the man of God 40,000 rand, not give it 300 rand. So I know, fellow PKs, it's hard when Christians don't value you, but God does. And when God opens those doors, this discussion of, is it, does salvation work for me, whatnot? Those things will be gone. Now, lastly, young pastors, it's quite important that you value your family, right? Because ultimately they're the ones that pray for you. They're the ones that God has blessed you with. They didn't bless you with Sister Dimakato, who's got a first baritone high voice. You understand? Who's the greatest worshiper in the world. God did not bless. God blessed you with your family. Honor them. Honor your wives. Pastors, my prayer is that you honor your wives. Honor your wives. Now, it's important that you value the asset. Sorry, I know that sounds wrong. You value your wife as if your life depends on it all the time. We can't have these split personality pastors who they commodify their wives at church, and at home you're expected to be superwoman. The pastor is always tired. You don't want to go out. I'm not talking about restaurants here and you take pictures and post on social media that you're taking. Take your wife to China. You understand? For no reason. Just say, wife, we're leaving kids. Let's go to China. Be romantic. Be romantic. There's nothing as annoying as somebody a pastor will stand there and say, oh, sweet Jesus, what a wonder you. You are like the rose of Sharon, and then you're not romantic to your wife. Honor your wife, gentlemen. Honor your children. 9 times out of 10, the calling will transcend to your children. It's just as some of us, it missed us, but 9 times out of 10 it will. So honor those children. Set a good example that when these children realize, or they feel the power of God upon them and they realize they're called, they don't doubt it. You understand? They don't second guess it. They just plug in. You understand? So it's quite important that you have a stable, loving, caring environment at home. That will translate to the message you preach. That will translate to your interaction with people. I mean, it's not rocket science. If I've noticed how you always speak highly and fondly of your wife, Solomon. That's what a good husband should do. You understand? And that will translate into the work that you do, into your everyday life. And ultimately, the wider community see these things. You know, for a very long time, gender-based violence has been a hush-hush in the church. Pastors abuse the wives. I'm telling you now. They clap them. One of the biggest things in the church now is pastors do is financial abuse. You understand? Pastor goes and preach there, and he says, "No, you must deposit 5,000 into my bank account, and then give me the other 5,000 cash." And then they don't disclose that to the wives. That, my friends, is financial abuse, and it must stop, because people out there are watching. Our fight is not only preaching to people, but people look at our actions as well and say, how righteous are they? Which righteous Christ are they talking about when they do 1, 2, 3, and 4? So pastors, especially young pastors, it's high time that especially in raising your kids, we must raise a generation of warriors that will live for Christ. You understand? In truth and in honest, not just wishy-washy people who know how to pray, who can quote verses and whatnot. Genuine warriors of Christ, people who will stand for truth. My prayer now, Solomon, and how I want to live off the rest of my life is live truthfully and honestly. If I can't do that, take me, Lord.
That's right.
Take me.
That's right. Thank you very much, guys. This is a great ending to it. And thank you so much for, really sharing your hearts and sharing certain things that are really a honest perspective, and that's what I like about it. There's quite a lot of people watching, a lot of them. There's so many comments here that I cannot even post out there, but I really want to appreciate you. And a lot of people have been asking me, Solomon, so you expose pastors that are dodgy, that are charlatans and all that. Why don't you tell us about the great pastors? Well, these are products of great pastors. They're humans. They have their own mistakes, but they're not charlatans. They didn't go into some occultic whatever to deceive people and enrich themselves. They don't live in big houses. They don't drive big cars. They've been doing it for how long now? So they are unsung heroes. We don't get to hear their names over and over again or see them everywhere. And that's what it is, and I like the perspective. You and Vicky, your journey has been extremely different. Your journey is not similar at all. Though your product of being a PK, but your journey is not similar. And that's the beauty of it, because each individual is different.
Yeah.
Each individual is different. So the way that you see things, the way that you interpret things, the way that you process things, your walk with God is equally different. So I really want to thank you guys for, taking the time to come here and just be with us, and wish you guys all the best, and if God called you to be a pastor, please don't reject it.
Yes, Vicky. Receive.
Vic, your brother wrote a comment here. I'm actually looking for there are so many comments here that I cannot even find it. You wrote a comment here that's actually very, very funny, saying that he doesn't have to suffer for Christ because your father suffered for Christ already.
Yeah, he always says that. Yeah.
But that's the testimony. If you are a member of a church, please support your Mfundisi, support your pastor. The kids, know that the kids are different. They have their own life. They can choose to participate in church stuff or not. That's their own journey. As long as they feel that's what God said to do, and accept them. Support the pastor's wife and be able to just support them and continue to pray for them. Sometimes we just want to pray for people, but sometimes you have to go the extra mile. If there's a pastor's son that is very good with art or very good with music, support them. They don't have to end up preaching. Support them so they can be the best that they can. So guys, thank you so much. I don't know how to say thank you, but thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sis Vicky.
Thank-
We must do coffee soon.
Yeah, please. Yes, thank you, Izang. Thank you, Makawe, soon, eh?
Yes.
Thank you. I must say, Vicky is like only the few people that call me with my traditional African name, you know, Izang. If you notice her, she never calls me Solomon. You know, I've known her for over 10 years now, and she never calls me Solomon.
Okay, from now on, I'm going to call you Zang as well.
All right.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Everyone
Thank
watching.
you.
I'll be back on Thursday at 8 p.m. with the final, installment of exposing Miss Nzuake Tancredi. We're gonna have the final installment of it, and some people are like, Solomon, we love for you to just keep exposing people, but it's more than that. We have to have discussions like this. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Solomon's Temple, you would see other discussions. I spoke to pastors' wives. I spoke to pastors, women pastors who are divorced or who lost their husbands, who are single, that kind of thing. What are the challenges and all this kind of stuff? So we need to have those sort of discussion because it's very important. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I hope that you would have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Tomorrow, yeah, okay. Public holiday is Thursday, so enjoy Heritage Day. Celebrate your culture and also put Jesus in the middle of your culture. Have a good evening.